Greetings, I'm Dr. Sean Reed, author of the Dating Toolbox, available on Amazon.com. So guys, if you like what you see, what you hear today, please hit that like and subscribe button. Down below there's a link. If you'd like to get my book, it will dramatically improve your dating life. Okay, so today I want to talk about the fact that we must not get drawn into arguments with women. I'm going to talk about 4 different kinds of guys today, but when it comes to marriage, and it's been my observation over many, many years, I've had many friends get divorced, I've been divorced once myself, the main reason marriages and long-term relationships end is over arguing. Men get drawn into arguments with women, and when you allow yourself to be drawn into an argument with a woman, it lowers her interest level, and eventually that interest level will dip below 50%, and then your marriage is over. A lot of things happen during this process. A lot of men will sense that something's wrong, so they'll begin to overcompensate. They'll call a woman more, they'll do more for her, they'll get her things, and all that does is drive the interest level down. I will tell you by the end of this video today exactly how to handle arguments, exactly what to do when a woman tries to pick an argument with you, and I guarantee if you do this, it will keep her interest level very high. She will stay in love with you. But the bottom line is, guys, don't get drawn into arguments. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. Let's unpack this argument. Women, arguing kills interest level, and it was something that developed via evolution. And we have a whole video on this, excuse my language, called shit test. Women have the need to test their men on a regular basis. 10, 20,000 years ago, men got tested daily just as a matter of survival. Today, we don't get tested daily, but women still have this biologic evolutionary need to test men and to argue with them. Usually, this test is in the form of an argument. Okay, we had a video on shit test, but today I want to look at this one side of this problem. I want to unpack it a little bit more and see exactly what's happening. So the first thing you want to understand is that women argue over feelings. Women argue over feelings. Men tend to argue over facts. So a woman will present an argument based purely on her feeling, and a man's first reaction is to argue and to refute her and to line up some facts. Guys, you're wasting your time when you do this. A woman's argument is based on the way she feels. Facts and rational discussion will not affect this. She's still going to feel the same way. As a matter of fact, her interest, her feelings for you, her interest level is going to drop. So for starters, guys, it is a total waste of time arguing with women, okay? The thing to do is to not argue, to disengage yourself from that situation. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. What I want to do first, though, is I want to talk about the types of men and the types of men most susceptible to the problem of arguments. And again, this is something I've observed over many, many decades in many failed marriages and failed long-term relationships. Okay, so we have 4 types of men. Originally, when I wrote my book, I wrote it because I was noticing, I was a college professor back then, and I was noticing that many, many young men no longer even get involved in dating. When I was young, all my guys, we were all chasing skirt. We were all going after women, and a lot of us were very successful. Now, today, we're much older, possibly happily married or divorced. But the reality was, when I was young, back in the 1980s, men actively, aggressively pursued women. Today, that's no longer the case. So a lot of men in their 20s and 30s are no longer even pursuing relationships. They'd rather play video games, and they really haven't grown up to be men. And the reason they do this is because they look at the statistics and they look at how terrible results often are for marriage, etc. So there's a rational reason why they do this, but I argue that it's the wrong path to take. The path to take is to master relationships and master getting women to love us and stay in love with us. But this was originally why I wrote my book. And that's related to the second type of men, what I call the younger MGTOW. Men going their own way. That's a big movement, the red pill movement. A lot of men have simply given up on dating altogether. They're a little bit different than these guys who haven't tried. These are guys who tried at some point, say they were in college and they're in their early 20s, they tried dating failed for them, and so they just said by the time they're late 20s, 30 years old, they're like, I'm not going to have anything to do with women. So that's your second classification of men. The third classification are your older MGTOWs. Are your men, many of them have been married or divorced, they've had relationships, but the relationships failed, and now they're older. A lot of my viewers are over the age of 45, and they've simply given up on women in a similar fashion to the younger MGTOWs. So these two, I gave two separate groups, but they're related. They're both men who've gone their own way, both younger and older men who have given up on women. Okay, now my fourth classification are going to be alpha males. Alpha males who argue and often have a history of relationship failure. That's really going to be the center of my argument, although as my other guys, my groups 1, 2, and 3, get better with women and become alpha males themselves, they're going to run into this problem. And so this problem is basically, I have guys who are very alpha. For example, I have one, my old training partner who fought in the UFC, was an absolutely elite martial artist. My best friend, who's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, big, strong, very alpha male guy. You know, we go out to the club, and I've seen him pick up on women many, many times, even though he's well into his 50s. These are guys that are very alpha and naturally the kind of guys that women are drawn to, but they have a history of failed relationship. They have a history of divorce. Between the two of them, I think they've been divorced 3 times. And my best friend had a big fight with his girlfriend when we went out on Friday night. So I'll talk about that in a moment. So really, what I'm targeting today are men who are out there and are active with women, but their relationships are failing because they're allowing themselves to get drawn into arguments. Okay, and we have to not do that. Let me talk a little bit about my own situation, what I do when a woman, my wife in particular, tries to draw me into an argument. So for those that don't know, my son, he just retired, but he was a very successful wrestler, a high school wrestler, 3-year varsity captain of the team. And so he went to state this year. So we had a period of several weeks where we were going to district tournaments where he won, and then regional tournaments where he qualified for state. So we had like 3 weeks in a row where we were going to wrestling tournaments, but we were not doing a date night. So the other day I go to my wife, I'm like, sweetie, you know, we've been going these wrestling tournaments together and spending time together, but this is still not the same as date night. We need our date night because relationships need romance. Yes, we've been married for a long time. You know, our marriage is solid, but we still need to do date nights. And she started arguing with me. Okay. Again, guys, realize, why do women argue? Women argue over their feelings. So my wife wants to argue over her feeling. Oh, I'm working, 50 hours a week. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm too busy for date night. And I'm arguing over facts. The fact is, I don't care how busy you are, if a marriage does not have romance, if it does not have a date night, it will fail. So my wife's arguing over her feelings. I'm presenting facts. If I had pursued that argument, it would go nowhere. So what I did, she started arguing with me. I stepped back and I said, look, I can see that your feelings are clouding your judgment here. I refused to argue with her, and that's it. I left the room. I went into my room. I immediately messengered my friend, and I'm like, we're going to have boys' night out. So Friday night, my friend and I went out, and it just so happens that he was in an argument with his girlfriend that night, and he made the mistake of engaging her. He liked showing me all these texts of him arguing back and forth. I told him, why are you doing that? When a woman starts to argue with you like that, you immediately terminate the conversation. That's it. The message that sends to her is, if you want to be around with me, if you want to have a relationship with me, you will not argue. I will not tolerate argument. And that, I explained to him, when you argue, you may think, oh, I'm being a strong masculine male, but actually you are not. Actually, when you argue, you are showing weakness. You are allowing yourself to engage in an argument, it does nothing for you. It only lowers interest level, so there's no reason to argue. Refuse to argue. So we went out Friday. We had a great night. I danced with a bunch of different women. This is kind of bad, but this one 28-year-old and I hit it off. I ended up holding her hand and dancing with her. My friend took videotape of it, so hopefully my wife doesn't see that or watch this video. But yes, I spent the evening dancing and holding hands with a 28-year-old, and it's all the product that my wife wanted to argue with me. If my wife wants to argue with me, if she doesn't want to do a date night, well, I'm going to find someone to dance with. I'm going to go out and I'm going to find someone. I'm not going to cheat, but if she wants to hold my hand and dance with me, I most certainly will do that. Think about it, guys. That's much better than engaging in an argument with her. Similarly, I told my friend, do not contact your girlfriend. That's it. Cut off all contact. She texted him yesterday saying she was sorry because he didn't text her or contact her for 2 days. That's the way to handle arguments. All right, guys. So remember, feelings can't be reasoned with. Women argue over their feelings, and so it's not only is it a waste of time and effort to try and argue over the way a woman feels, you're not going to change the way she feels. All the facts in the world will not change the way she feels. Let her go through those feelings, but let her do it alone. Do not allow yourself to be drawn into arguments. All right, guys. So if you like what you saw and heard today, please hit that like and subscribe button. Again, my book is available on Amazon.com. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer them for you, and good luck in your dating.